guys? Welcome back into the channel. In today's video, we're going to be doing some contract talk in Madden 24, something that has specifically come up a lot in the franchises that I'm in so far on Madden 24, and that's really just in regards to contracts and trading players away and acquiring players to your team and what's going to be the most financially savvy for your team. I'm seeing a lot of players that are trading away top talent that are on big contracts and trading for players that are on expiring deals, and they don't really understand, I think, the repercussions of doing so. There are some major financial implications that can help set your team up for success in the long term or failure in the long term, especially if you're doing a franchise that's going to be multiple years. And it's really rather simple, all of the detail that you need to know as far as contracts are concerned. Number one, you want to make sure that you are acquiring players that are on multi-year deals and not really trading away players that are on multi-year deals, because you're going to be hurting yourself financially if you do the opposite and you bring in players that aren't on multi-year deals and you trade away your players that are on big contracts. So if I went to my roster right now and we're just on a opening Pittsburgh Steelers franchise, you're gonna get a really quick view on how much money you would save by getting rid of a certain player. So I could trade away TJ Watt and I would save $20 million right here and right now for doing so. But what is not really clear to people is the long-term implication of that. So if I look at his contract, that's actually broken out over 3 years. Now, the way that this would work is in real life, if this player was traded away to another team, that bonus money, that $45.6 million, would be spread out to my team. I'm trading him away. I would have to pay about $15 million a year to this player still. Meanwhile, all of the salary portion will get transferred over to the new team. So the remaining salary on his contract will be broken out over that new team. So while we're paying him $30 million a year right now, that new team is going to essentially be paying him $15 million a year, and we're going to be paying him $15 million a year over 3 years. And so that's why it would be very advantageous to trade for players on a multi-year contract and not necessarily to give these players away. Now, as far as it works within the game, I still have to do a little bit more testing here on Madden 24, and I'll certainly put out another video on this. But in past years, it has always been that no matter what, that total bonus can only be projected out over this year and next year because of Madden's limitations within their system. So you're going to take a $22.5 million hit right now in this season and a $22.5 million hit in the next season that's going to count against your salary cap. But again, you got to think about that from a contract perspective. Is it better to have a 94 overall TJ Watt on a $15 million a year deal, being the team that's trading for him? Of course. And that's going to allow you to have more players on your team. That's going to allow you to acquire better players, re-sign players on your team, and build a better roster. That's why the best Madden players, the best franchise players, are always going out and targeting players that are on multi-year contracts, because that is going to give them better players for cheap. If you re-sign TJ Watt, you're going to have to pay him $30 million a year. But if you acquire TJ Watt already under contract, you're only going to be paying him $15 million a year. So let's go ahead and actually trade him away and show that to you. TJ Watt here, for example, I'm paying him $30 million. Let's go ahead and now trade him away to another team and see what that other team is actually going to be paying him. We're just going to go with the Bears real quick because we might as well, and we can trade him away for any player. That doesn't really matter. And really quick, we're going to be able to see what that contract breakdown looks like for the other team. Now, again, that's going to count against my cap still no matter what, because I'm trading him away. It's always going to be that bonus portion that's going to count against me when I'm trading a player away. That bonus portion doesn't get transferred over to the other team. Now, when we look at TJ Watt and his contract, we can see that they're paying significantly less for this player. Now, this breakdown is interesting because it's the total salary. So it adjusts his contract over, it says 3 years remaining, but his contract is not actually a 3-year contract. So whenever I actually go in and edit the player, it's going to show that there's more years to his contract than that. And that's why you're seeing about $20 million a year on his salary. And you can see here it's a 5-year contract. So essentially what's being done here is the $80 million is being being divided out over the years of his total contract, and we're now seeing the remaining 3. So yeah, there's a little bit, going on there at play that's not going to make it necessarily an exact easy science to figure out exactly what that player is going to be paid, but again, isn't it better to get a TJ Watt on your team for 20 mil a year, a 94 overall X factor that I now have under control for 3 years for only 20 mil a year, as opposed to paying that guy 30 mil a year, by re-signing him or signing him in free agency or whatever it might be. You're always going to be better off acquiring a player that is under contract like this, and you're always going to be pretty much losing out by trading this player away. Now, yes, we did technically save some money by trading him away, but we're giving ourselves a cap penalty over a couple of years that's going to be hampering our team. And that's why a lot of times when you see a player with a giant penalty like a Tremaine Edmonds, or even a lot of the quarterbacks in the league like Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes, you're going to see a massive penalty that's going to prevent you from doing much of anything with that team. If you traded away Patrick Mahomes, you're eliminating a third of your cap space this year and next year by trading that guy away. If we take a look at Lamar Jackson, for example, on the Ravens, you're eliminating an absolute monstrous amount from your cap space, 100 mil per year pretty much, that you're going to be taking this year and next year, that you're not going to be able to use that money to do anything else with your team. And you can see whenever we actually go over to the salaries tab here that our 2023 cap penalty in the middle of the screen is actually going to be around that $21-22 million mark, which is kind of what we figured it out to be. So again, it's not going to help your team really to trade those big contracts away. Generally, what you want to do actually, though, is trade some of those players away when they're at the end of the deal. That's when you're going to see the most savings. So a Cam Hayward type, for example, right now you're going to save $15.9 million, but whenever you get to the last year of the contract, you're going to be saving quite a bit more money, because that's when it's really straight up savings for you, because your penalty's not going to be projected out over the following year. Anytime you have extra years remaining on the contract, you're going to see penalties in future years, and that really starts to mess people up, because right now you might be able to make the contracts and the trades work. You know what I mean? You might be able to go in and easily see in the trade screen that right here and right now I could trade away anybody that I wanted to, and I still have $28.8 million worth of cap space left to work with over there on the left side. But what ends up hurting people is when they trade all these players away and then you get to next year and you realize, oh, well, I still have a ton of cap penalty and I don't have money to re-sign these players. And that's really when the problems start. Whenever you have to re-sign these players during the season, during the offseason, or you want to try to fill out your roster, once you've made those big trades for those big time contracts, trading those players away, people really start to run into the issue of, oh, I am now actually seeing that I don't have any space to do anything, and they can't even fill out a full 53-man roster once they've done some of those moves. So you just got to be cautious with who you're trading away and who you're trading for, right? And the same thing goes for the other end of the spectrum that I talked about as far as trading for players. You don't want to trade for those big name players out there that are on 1-year contracts. And, there's a lot of people that get fooled into that. You have to know if you can spend the money on that player to re-sign them once you bring them into the team. So one of those players right now that's on the block in the 32-man sim league that I'm in is Rashawn Gary, and he's a perfect example. I mean, he's 25 years old, 88 overall superstar, but who's not going to want that type of a player, right? But he's a defensive end, so defensive end outside backer, so he's going to be being paid a premium, you know what I mean? And if I go to his stats and contract, if you just take the little bit of time to look over this, you now see he's on a 1-year deal, $10.9 million. Well, whenever I go to trade for this guy and then re-sign him, he's going to want a ton of money. So yeah, right now I might be able to fit him into the scheme, but when it comes down to it, have I explored the fact that I'm going to have to pay this guy $20+ million a year once I actually trade for him? And that's where people get into problems, especially whenever you start to compound the situation by trading away a player that's on a multi-year contract and bringing in a player that's on a single-year contract. Now you're costing yourself a penalty and you're preventing yourself from being able to re-sign that guy. It's a double whammy that's going to put your team in a hole. So again, if I go ahead and make this trade for this guy, I bring in Rashawn Gary, we're now going to see what it's going to cost to actually re-sign him whenever I get him onto my team. So I can quickly actually go over to re-sign players even though we're in the preseason. It's not going to actually let me physically sign the players right now, but when I look at Rashawn Gary right now, yeah, he wants a massive contract, 70 mil almost, or sorry, 90 mil almost over 5 years, which is actually not as bad as you might think for a edge rusher type of a player. That's actually kind of nice to see. But that's going to be an expensive contract over top of adding penalties for trading away guys that are on multi-year contracts and putting myself in a position where now I'm short on money. The other thing to pay attention to as well, in addition to this, is the player's re-sign interest. And a lot of times you're going to make that move without considering what is Rashawn Gary's motivations and how's that going to impact me. So, okay, now you triple compound something. You trade away a player that's going to give you a massive penalty that's going to hurt you in future years. You bring in a player that needs re-signed immediately, and now his re-sign interest is zero. That has happened to a lot of people as well. And now he doesn't even want to re-sign with your team. So you don't even have a chance to bring him back, or you're going to have to pay him a ton more money because he doesn't like being with your team. So again, just a couple basic details that don't take a whole lot of time to explore when you're going through a trade, but very often overlooked by franchise players. And if you just do these couple of things, trade for good contracts, don't trade away the guys that you have under control for multiple years, trade away the guys that are on expiring contracts for better returns, trade away an expiring contract for a guy that's under control for a couple of years. And then make sure that the players that you are acquiring to your team want to be with your team, that they have the motivations that fit with your team. You're going to set yourself up for success as a franchise player, and you're going to turn yourself into an absolute monster in franchise mode. You can build up a team very quickly and very easily and not have any cap problems at all if you just do those couple of individual steps that, like I said, do not take a whole lot of time. I just went over everything in like 10 to 15 minutes, and to be honest with you, I talk a lot. So honestly, you can do all of these things for every trade that you do. It's going to take you 5 minutes. Just make sure that it works out for your team in the long term, and you're never going to have those problems again of running into those cap issues in year 2 and year 3, and you're going to set yourself up with a monster team down the road as you continue to progress. So if you guys want to see more from me, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe down below if you're new to the channel, and leave a comment as well. I want to hear your guys' feedback. Helping in the comment section is always going to help drive these videos and push them out to more people. I want to help as many people as possible. I know there's millions of Madden players out there, and these videos don't reach nearly enough people, and that's why I see every single time I get into a franchise, especially sim franchises, team building franchise like this, that there's guys that just make wild moves and put their teams in bad positions. And then the worst part about it is they leave because they put their team into a bad position. And then nobody wants to take over that franchise because they have zero cap. They've traded away their best players on the team. And now it's just kind of a league ruining type of effect. It's a domino effect. As always, I'll see you in the next video, and I hope you have a good one.